Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I think we're going to start now. I'm really excited because this is actually our first A&E webinar. We're going to be talking about everything about relocating to the UK, how you'd be doing that, how to secure the best position in the NHS. So I've got a lot planned for you. We do also have a guest speaker, which I'm going to be speaking about later on. Katie, if you can go to the next slide, that'd be great. So I did look at the attendees. We've actually got 400 signups. So thank you so much for anyone who signed up and joined us today. My name is Ashley Johnny. If you've spoken to me previously, hi. But if you haven't, then I am the Divisional Manager of A&E here at Remedium. I've worked in A&E recruitment for the last 6 years. I personally relocated from South Asia, so I understand the struggles of relocating from one country to another. So this is one of the reasons why I'm really passionate about what I do. I also have recruited over 500 A&E doctors, so I know the pain, I know the pleasure, I know everything that comes with the whole process. So I'll be here to guide you and talk about everything that you need to know about. And I have my colleague Dani Pathman. She's going to introduce herself.
Hi guys, for anyone that doesn't know me, my name's Dani. I'm one of the senior consultants here at Remedium, specialising in emergency medicine. I've been here for nearly 3 years, work pretty much alongside Ashley, and I'm really excited to speak to you all today.
Great, and we also have Dr. M.Hamza Shaikh. He's actually someone that we placed from abroad to the NHS as a consultant. He started as a fixed-term consultant in the UK and moved up to a substantive consultant at Gloucester. He will be joining us a little bit later on today, and he'll be talking about training and how to get into training and to complete your CESR or CCT and become a substantive consultant in the NHS. So that'll be very exciting. So so I want to go through the basic things that you need to achieve for you to be obtaining your first position in the NHS. Before I get into that, let's just go straight into it, talk about Remedium. So I know you probably have all heard about Remedium at some point. Some of your friends may have got a position in the NHS through Remedium. So we are an organization, we are a consultancy that's founded in 2013 by David Green. He was very passionate about the NHS. He understood majority of the taxpayers' money was spent on locums, which was unnecessary costs. So he's actually taken a step to actually save the NHS from overspending on locums. So we found a alternative solution by placing permanent doctors on permanent positions where you pay, according to NHS guidelines. And we recruited over 3,000 doctors from abroad in the last sort of 8-9 years time. I run the A&E division here at Remedium, but we also have different divisions within different specialties like radiology, medicine, women and children, pathology, psychiatry, and surgery. We don't just help you find a job in the NHS, we actually help you with the whole process, with the mobilization. So we understand when we recruit a doctor from abroad, we're not just recruiting a doctor from abroad, we are actually recruiting their family as well. So we help their families with schoolings, accommodation, obviously, finding an area that's actually suitable for their children or their family. If you want to be going to a multicultural area, so any sort of preferences that you have, we'll be helping with it. We also have an award-winning platform called Red Carpet by Remedium, which I'm going to be speaking a little bit more about a little bit later on in the presentation, which I'm really excited about. So that actually helps our doctors relocate in a much efficient, faster way. And you can see at the bottom of the slide, we've actually won loads of awards. And this year we've actually been shortlisted for the Agency of the Year award, which I'm really excited about. It's all the hard work that we've put into becoming and producing the best service for our doctors. So really excited about that. They'll be announcing the winners in September, so keep an eye out. Cool. So today's agenda, we're going to be speaking about a few things. So first of all, we'll be talking about why do you want to come and work in the UK? Out of, you know, UK being such a small country, you've got places like Australia, America. So why do you want to be coming to work in a small country as such as the UK? What are the requirements to be able to work in the NHS and to be able to obtain your GMC registration? Career progression will be spoken by Dr. Shaikh a little bit later on, and I'll be speaking about relocation support, which is the red carpet by Remedium as well. Okay, so before we continue, I am really keen to actually find out where our doctors are from. So Katie is actually going to put up a poll. So if you can actually click on which country you reside in at the moment, so we get an understanding of where our doctors are from. Yes. Oh, that's interesting. We've got a lot of doctors from India, Saudi Arabia. We've got some doctors from UAE, Sri Lanka, and loads of doctors from places that's not been selected. So I'd be interested. So if the country is actually not included on the poll, if you can actually put the country on the chat box, that'd be great. So we get an idea of where our attendees are from. Katie, can you come back to the presentation? Perfect. Yeah, if you can go to the next slide, that'd be great.
Perfect. So we just wanted to go over the key reasons why you would want to relocate to the UK. I'm sure most of you know many of them already from your friends. But obviously the NHS is one of the most prestigious healthcare systems in the world. The most probably big pull factor for coming here is the training. Obviously, Dr. Hamza is going to kindly talk us through in more detail about the training later on, but the training is really outstanding here. And more importantly, the support for the consultants, for IMGs, is incredible. So there's, you know, it's extremely multicultural here, not just in the cities, pretty much across the whole of the UK, and everyone is extremely welcoming. So people like to call it home from home. So if you come here, you'll definitely settle in quickly. And obviously we're here to help make sure that you get the best contract, the best salary packages possible. And yeah, have the best experience possible. So in terms of qualifications you need to come to the UK, as most of you will know, you will need to obtain GMC registration prior to coming to the UK. So there's two main things that you need in order to obtain GMC, one of which is a postgraduate qualification. Obviously, this is an A&E webinar, so the two key ones probably for most of you will be MRChem and PLAB. PLAB is also quite common these days. Other qualifications, MRCP, MRCS, FRCR, etc., also accepted by the GMC. Alongside that, you will also need to do the English language test. There's two different options. One is IELTS and the other one is OET. So for IELTS, you would need a score of 7.5 overall and 7 in each of the 4 sections. And OET, you will need a minimum of a B in each section. We do like to recommend OET. It tends to be easier than IELTS just because most of the exam is to do with medical terminology. So it tends to be easier and with a higher pass rate. So it's become a lot more popular. I just want to briefly touch upon SELR because a lot of candidates that do MRChem opt for the exemption, or also known as the SELR route. This is definitely an option. The only thing I would say about this is we do, Ash and I both, we always recommend for our doctors to do OET or IELTS because it will give you so many more opportunities. Usually when there is an exemption opportunity, it would be at one specific hospital, and the package would be basically like a flat salary, you know, non-negotiable. If a doctor's got 5 years or 20 years, they'd both be getting the same salary. Sometimes it might be not be in a location that you like is preferable to you. They're not always in cities and things like that. And also SELR opportunities usually only come up once or twice a year. If you're obviously desperate to come, it is much quicker to do OET. Also on SELR, if you do choose to go through that route, it's essential that you obviously haven't attempted OET or IELTS within the last 2 years. If you've done it previously 2 years or more, that's fine. If you failed, you can still do SELR. Just a couple of things that you don't need for GMC registration, but we highly recommend that you do before you come to the UK, because it will enhance your chances of getting interviews. Number one is obviously sufficient A&E experience, especially for those doctors with MRCEM. You're most likely looking for a middle grade role, and you know, you probably would want to be looking at three years minimum in A&E, preferably more. The next thing is life support courses. Some hospitals that we work with actually will not even consider you if you haven't got life support courses. So doing those before you come to the UK, even if they're not obviously done in the UK, they're still considered. The absolute best ones to do, I mean, the best one is ATLS. So if you do have the option to do that, I'd 100% recommend. The other one is PALS, Pediatric Advanced Life Support. Obviously you can do BLS and ACLS, but they're probably the most common. So if you're looking to stand out to other candidates, I definitely recommend those ones. And then finally, again, for doctors that have got MRCEM and looking for middle grade roles, teaching and managerial experience is obviously really important. You know, participating in research or audits, anything like that, you know, leadership experience, because when it does come to the interview, being able to talk about examples where you can show that experience will really help you. Thanks, Katie. Next slide, please. So we just want to do another poll. Could you guys all vote if you have done MRCEM, if you've started it, if you've done one part, two parts, or all parts, and if you haven't done MRCEM, what qualifications you have done, or what you're planning to do.
Unfortunately, this poll's not working, so we're just going to move on.
No problem. Right, okay, so we're going to be talking about the grades. So I'm going to try and explain it as simple as I can, because different grades in the UK are called in different terminology. They use different terminologies at different trusts and different parts of the country. So just to make it as simple as possible. So obviously, internship, something that's called internship in many countries is actually classified as foundation year 1, foundation year 2 in the UK. So it's instead of 1 year, it's actually 2 years. And then you move on to SHO and SC1, SC2, which is equivalent to SHO. Then you move on to SC3 to SC6. Usually SC1 to SC6 is when you're actually in training, but most of the hospitals in the UK use the same terminologies even when you're not in training. And then once you complete training, then you become a substantive consultant, or let's just say if you've worked in the NHS for a few years and you've completed your FRCEM final, then you can, whilst you're trying to obtain your specialist registration, you can still work as a fixed term consultant on a 1-year contract. Katie? Cool. So working hours are, I mean, it depending on which part of the country, which part of the world you're from. So if you're from places like Middle East, I feel like it's a lot more it's a lot more similar to how it works in the UK. But if you're from places like India, when I speak to doctors from India, I always get a heart attack when they tell me how many hours that they work. Most of the time, I get told that they work 60 to 70 to 80 hours per week. which is not like that at all in the UK. So obviously, if you're a middle grade, you'll be working anything from 40 to 48 hours, depending on the contract that you're working on. So if you're a registrar, you'll be working up to 48 hours. If you're a specialty doctor, you work in PAs. So I don't want to complicate things for you, but just to brief it down, one PA is equivalent to 4 hours if you're working 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Friday, or if you're working, outside of those hours, then one PA is equal to 3 hours. So usually, if you're working 12 PAs, it's more or less equivalent to 40 hours. So if you are not a consultant, if you're a specialty doctor and below, you'd be working anything from 40 to 48 hours in the UK.
So I just wanted to go over the essential documentation for international doctors. So this is a really important slide because a lot of the things prior to interview or even after interview, you can get ready. So just a couple of things. So EPIC, obviously this is the verification of your MBBS or your MRCEM, PLAB, MRCP, etc. So even if you are in the process of doing your MRCEM and you haven't finished, we always recommend that you get your MBBS verified in the meantime, because it can take some time. Obviously, for those doing MRCEM or even PLAB or any other pathway, doing your OET in the meantime is always a good thing, because sometimes it can take a few attempts. GMC registration is obviously essential to come to the UK. So we do sometimes have doctors that interview even before they've obtained their GMC registration. So it might be in process, or maybe you're just waiting for your OET results, potentially your OSCE results or something like that. So just making sure that you have everything ready so that you can get full registration as soon as possible. Once you've done the interview, and in terms of getting the COS and obviously your visa eventually, the things that you will need are good standing certificates, 2 proof of address, passport copy, police clearances from any of the countries that you've been in, that lived in the last 10 years, TB clearance for some countries, obviously references, and your experience certificates. So the main thing is to try and get all these documents like around the time of your interview, or even when you're thinking about moving, will speed up the process if you are obviously keen to come as soon as possible. Right. So we just wanted to talk you through kind of the process of working with us. I know some people watching this are currently in touch with us, so you may or may not already know how it works. But for those that are obviously looking to move to the UK in the near future, how it works with Remedium is the initial stages. You would send your CV to one of us. Once you've sent your CV, we will give you a call. We'll have a nice long chat for around 45 minutes, find out all about you, pretty much all your whole situation, your background, your family, where you would like to move to, if you've got any friends, pretty much absolutely everything about you, so that we can obviously advise on the best possible opportunity for you. Once we've obviously found out about you and worked out where is best for you, we will then send your CV out to all our clients, to all the hospitals. Usually we would get feedback within around 2 weeks. Sometimes it can be quicker. It depends on the activity at the time, but usually around 2 weeks. Occasionally it can be up to 3 or 4 weeks if you're specific on one particular hospital or something like that. Then hopefully we get you the interview. Obviously we would give you any advice on your CV or things like that if there's anything that we'd recommend changing prior to sending it out. Once we've got the interview, so when we get an email saying that you've been shortlisted, the interview will usually be within a week from that date. Occasionally it can be within 2 weeks, but around 1 to 2 weeks. Before the interview, usually the day before, we will prep you for it. So that is another around 45 minutes. We go through all the questions that might come up, give you lots of examples of clinical questions, do everything we can to make sure you get the offer, which majority of our doctors fortunately do get the offers. Once you've got the offer, so that we normally find out the same day or the next day. It's rare that it takes longer than that to hear if you were successful or not. And then from that point, it normally takes 2 to 3 days to get the offer letter. Once we get the offer letter, hopefully if we've done our job correctly, you will sign, because it will be the best opportunity for you. And then we will agree your transition timeline. So this would actually be spoken about in the initial call, because usually if we're working with a doctor, majority of hospitals are looking for their doctors to start within 3 to 5 months. Occasionally, if there's a doctor with specific circumstances who can't come for 6 to 7 months, that's okay. But most of the time, the hospitals are looking for doctors that can come for between 3 and 5 months. So we would have gone through that, and then once you've obviously got the job offer, we will set out the timeline with you. So how long it will take, obviously for all the pre-employment documentation, to get the COS, and then obviously to get the visa. From the day that you sign, I'd say, in my opinion, one of the best things about Remedium are OEs. So they do their onboarding executives. They do pretty much all the transition work for you, which is incredible. So we would add you to a group chat with obviously your recruiter and one of the OEs, and they will give you a call and talk you through all the next steps. So just in the dark blue bit, the bottom of the slide, it's pretty much talking you through which documents you need to get. You'll upload most of them on the platform, which Ash will talk about shortly. And then we will apply for your COS. The COS usually takes around 2 weeks to come. Once you've got the COS, the same day you can apply for your visa. There's 2 visa options. Priority visa takes 5 working days, and the standard visa takes 15 working days. I would just like to mention that there was obviously quite a few delays in the last few months with visas because of obviously the war in Ukraine. But in the last, I'd say 3 weeks, this has gone completely back to normal. So we've actually had some doctors who applied for standard visa getting their visas within 1 week, which is incredible. So visas are back to normal. They're really quick. And then once you've got your visa, just before even, we would be helping you with your accommodation. So what we'll do is we'll send you, we'll obviously ask you for your requirements in terms of how many bedrooms and where and all that sort of stuff. And then we'll send you some options based on that. And then the doctor would just have to contact the agent directly, book their accommodation, and then obviously you would book your flights and you would arrive. And then I'd just like to mention that we are fully here for you forever. So we are not going anywhere. 6 months in, a year in, 5 years in, we are here if you ever need anything. I've been here for 3 years. I've had doctors who have wanted to move. I've had doctors here that weren't getting their correct salary because they hadn't called HMRC. All these random small problems, we are basically your fairy godmothers, and we will solve for you most of them. So we're basically here to support you throughout the whole time, and if you need anything at all. Thanks, Katie.
Great. So I'm really excited to be talking about Red Carpet. So this is actually our digital relocation platform. It's an award-winning platform. It's the same platform that's actually used by Google and Facebook to relocate their staff across the country. So we've rebranded it to Red Carpet by Remedium. So every single doctor that's actually comes through Remedium would get login details for Red Carpet, and that they would be able to log into, which also has an app. So this is a tailored app. So when a doctor gets a job at, let's just say, a certain position, a certain place in the country, so Dr. X is going to Birmingham, so they will get login details for Red Carpet, and that would be specified to Birmingham. So let's just say they are coming with family of 3, and they want to find out if there are good schools in the area, and you will get all the information about Birmingham, and you'd find out all the information, but that's related to where you're going. So it's specifically tailored for that particular doctor, which is the beauty about Red Carpet. So they are actually helping with multiple things. Obviously, the first and most important thing is actually, or concern is actually, accommodation when someone is moving from abroad. So a lot of the doctors, they are moving from different continents. such as Asia, Middle East, even Africa. So they're moving to another brand new continent that they've not been to. So finding accommodation can be quite daunting. So we do have a 24-hour, 24/7 help that we provide all our doctors with rental help, and also many other things as well. So we also provide, information as such. When you're coming to the UK, you're going to have loads of questions, which is questions around how do I find how do I get my national insurance number? How do I find a property in the UK? How do I buy a property in the UK? How do I get a car in the UK? So there are loads of questions that's based around relocating to another country. So which can all be covered by just going on the platform itself. So every question that you may have about relocating to another country will be covered by just going on the platform. So that's actually really, really handy. So we've actually won loads of awards for the platform itself, as it's an outstanding platform to help our doctors relocating from another country.
So we just wanted to go over a few last points before we hand over to Dr. Hamza, just some key things that really sort of stick out to us. So the first thing is to remain flexible and open-minded. So what this really means is, I'd like to think that we're good enough at our job for you guys to trust us. So it is really hard because obviously majority of doctors have got friends in the UK. Their friends might be saying to go here, go there, obviously salaries and things like that. We're here to get you the best possible offer we can get you, and we're very honest. So if you tell us that you want to go to London, but you want £90,000, it's probably not going to happen. We can tell you where you can get £90,000 and make it happen, but there's obviously going to be some compromise. So the main thing with that is obviously you will tell us everything you want, and we will be really clear about what we can get you, and we will do our very best to obviously get you, tick off as many things as we can. So it's just basically to trust us. The second thing is working with multiple sources. So usually, I mean, I know Ash and I, we personally only work with doctors that are willing to work exclusively with us, just because it can ruin the doctor's reputation, it can ruin our reputation. If, for example, we're sending a particular doctor out and they might be working with another agency who send it to the same hospital, it makes both parties look bad, to be honest with you, and sometimes the hospitals actually disregard the CV altogether. So it's just best to obviously stick with one agency. Obviously, if you give us 3 weeks and we haven't got you an interview where you'd like, then feel free and go and work with someone else. But we'd obviously really appreciate your exclusivity from the beginning. And then finally, we've obviously touched upon this, the English language exams, especially for those that are doing MRChem. We've had a lot of doctors requesting SELR and exemption opportunities lately, but really OET or IELTS will give you so many more opportunities. Sometimes it's not possible for a doctor to do OET, or their friends have come through SELR and they want to go to that specific hospital or something like that. But I'd say 80–90% of the time, we definitely would recommend doing the English language test. Thanks.
Perfect. So we've got some testimonials on the screen which you can go through. The first one is actually from Dr. Verghese that I've personally placed at Chesterfield. He came from South India, and we've got Dr. Deepu, who's also gone to Midlands region. He's as a specialty doctor in A&E. Okay. Yeah, and we've got Dr. Al-Haj and Dr. Nalini. Nalini's gone to Kingston, and Dr. Al-Haj is Whipps Cross. Yeah, he's gone to Whipps Cross as well. So yeah, a few testimonials that you can see from their experience, talking about their experience with us. So yeah, now I'm going to pass it on to Dr. Shaikh, whom I've previously mentioned, that's placed by Remedium at Gloucester Royal Hospital. So he's going to be talking about his experience with Remedium and also career progression as an international doctor.
Perfect. Hi, I hope I'm audible, first of all. That's good. Thanks very much, Remedium, particularly Ashley, Dani, and Katie. I think it's been a great experience coming through Remedium and me being placed in Gloucestershire hospitals. In A&E, I joined as a locum consultant, and then have made my way to becoming getting onto the substantive post, as this bio shows over there. Yeah, it's been a great experience. Most of it is positive, of course. Some hurdles on the way, which I think everybody in every field, every sort of wherever you move, you do face them. It's a new environment. Socially, it's a new environment in the hospital or wherever you're going to be working in. So I would say that whichever route you come through, it's going to have its own challenges, but just stay in there, stay focused, and stay positive. Get all the support you need, and yeah, just I think the system overall will just make you blend in. So I basically will talk a little bit about CESR, and will touch very slightly on the formal training program in emergency medicine in particular. So if we just go for a little overview, you can see the slide in front of you. CESR historically was known as Article 14. Some of the older consultants or those who started in the UK a while ago, especially 6-7 years ago, they would know it as Article 14. But it is basically the same thing. It doesn't really matter what you want to call it. It stands for Certificate of Eligibility of Specialty Training, which basically is you're hired as a non-trainee, but in a way it is training through a non-conventional pathway. And basically at the end, you are equivalent to somebody who has trained in the UK. So what it really means is they are looking at your evidence from your non-training posts as well as training posts wherever you have trained. It could be in the UK, it could be outside the UK. And they basically evaluate that evidence, put it all together, and see if it actually matches somebody who has been trained in the UK as per the CCT and curriculum and competencies. And then they give you a sort of decision at the end of that. What is at the end? What does it actually mean? So it is, like I said, it's kind of a training program to get you onto the specialist register. Now, I'll just clarify on that. Specialist register might mean different things in different countries. In the UK, if you're on the specialist register, that means you are a consultant. In the Middle East, I know, having worked there before as well myself, specialist actually means somebody who is like a senior registrar in the UK. But here, if you're on the specialist register, you are a consultant. What does substantive mean? Substantive means that you're given like a permanent post. That's what it means. Otherwise, you're contracted. These are basically some terms that probably need to be clarified, and for you to understand before you actually start looking for jobs, to make sure that the particular job you're applying for, the title that you're applying for is what you actually need, and you can actually cope in that role. I want to go quickly through the essentials. So some things that CESR application will not be successful without these particular things. So first one is the workplace-based assessments. Previously, workplace-based assessments were entailed a lot of things, but now it is down to 3 things, which are DOPS, which are basically for procedures. Then you have a mini KEX, which are basically examinations. These are the 2 main ones. Why can't I remember the third? I'll come back to this. I'm so sorry. So you've got mini KEX, you've got DOPS, and CBDs. Sorry, I got the third one. CBDs are case-based discussions. So these are the 3 main workplace-based assessments that you need. And there is a minimum number that they encourage you to have, which is 12 in each. That'll make it 36 assessments that you have. This does not include these 36 are aside from your like 6 monthly or 12 monthly evaluation that you'll be having. It is aside from things like your formative assessments, if some of you are used to that sort of system, where you have assessments at the end of every rotation. That is different from workplace-based assessments. Workplace-based assessments are purely based on curriculum competencies, looking at each one individually. But yes, you might have, let's say, for example, one DOPS that covers 2 or 3 competencies. It is possible. So you can kind of cross-link them. And you might have one that just covers one competency. So it is, there's no strict rule to it. You can have one to many other links into the same competency. Another one is ARCP or similar. What it really, I know it's another acronym. It stands for something that you probably won't remember, but what it really means is annually you have a review of your competence progression, which means you're, depending on where you have worked before and what your system is, some places would have like a whole team where they look at your annual competence, what you have been through, like looking at the workplace-based assessments, your end of rotation evaluations, your feedback, your personal development plan, all that. So you have to have that in some form of a report that actually has like an objective evaluation, rather than just saying that he or she is ready to progress to the next level. It doesn't have to be by the term ARCP. That's why I've said similar. And you've got rotations, which you might also know them as secondments. It means pretty much the same thing. And from an EM point of view, what the rotations you really need are pediatrics. I mean, pediatrics EM. You need ITU or ICU, as you may call it. Then you have anesthesia or anesthetics. These are the 3 main ones. And then 4th one is your acute medicine. Now, acute medicine is something that you could, depending on how your department functions and how you have been trained, some of the competencies of acute medicine could be covered in EM, and likewise for other specialties. So you might have, there's a bit of overlap in some things. But the way it works in the UK is that they are, each of them are 6-month rotations. Then you have to show evidence of teaching, leadership, and managerial skills. Okay, and we, at the end of that, we also have, if you see, quality improvement and audits. Another one is POCUS, which is point of care ultrasound. Of course, that is something that is of my interest, and I'm currently leading that at my department and also the training region. So that is something that you have to have a level 1 sign off, or at least evidence to support that you follow the RCEM level 1 curriculum and you have successful DOPS in them. Now, of course, bear in mind, it's not only for POCUS, but it's for everything else. The curriculum has changed. So there's a new curriculum out there, which is the 2021 curriculum implemented last August. But that is for most of the specialties, including EM. So whatever document you're reading, either via GMC or through the RCEM website, make sure you're reading the updated guidance. There's courses like safeguarding courses, particularly safeguarding children, and it's level 3 that you need. We can talk about at the end, or just provide some resources where you can actually do those courses. You might be working in a place that's already providing that, but if not, there are e-learning courses and face-to-face courses that are provided by various organizations. You have to show evidence of clarity of your notes, referrals, and medical reports. I know most of it is electronic now, and if that's the case, that makes things easy. It's easy to get those into PDF format or get it from your medical records and share it with, of course, the GMC for your application. Life support courses, of course, we know all of them. If you've been working in EM or looking to work in EM, you'll know of ATLS, APLS, ALS. This is something that you should have. There's some alternatives to ATLS, like ETC, which is the European trauma course, but it's not just exclusive to these. It could be anything that is supporting EM and your curriculum, which can go ahead. So then you've got an appraisal process. So appraisal is of course, it's basically moving on to the next level, but you've also, it basically means an appraiser who is qualified or certified to appraise somebody, usually from another department, so that they're quite neutral. Appraisal actually means that you have been keeping up with information in your field, with CPD, with your personal development plans, and then basically you have been appraised as being successful. If you have not done any of that, you are not appraised. Now, for if you have been in a training program, then something like with what I've talked about, ARCP should suffice. But if you've not, then you need proper appraisals, and there are organizations out there who do it for non-trainees as well, in the UK as well as outside the UK. So you'll meet your appraiser online, and you submit your evidence onto a portfolio on their format, and they meet you online, and basically, yes, you go through the appraisal process. So I have experience with that because I kept, you need that if you want to keep your GMC license. If you, for example, you've got a GMC license while working outside the UK, but let's say you have not decided to relocate yet, you want to stay for another couple of years for whatever reason it is, you have to still go through an appraisal process. So if your hospital is not providing you that appraisal process, you can do it via various private companies as well. Another thing that you need is colleague and patient feedback, or 360-degree feedback. Again, all these forms are available on the RCEM website, as well as on Kaizen, which is our new e-portfolio. But it doesn't mean that you have to use exactly the same form, as long as it follows the GMC guidance. It can be any form that you use in your trust or your hospital, wherever you are working in the world. Another essential is a logbook of cases managed. There's one thing to be, we all know what a logbook is. So you basically manage an interesting case. Let's say you've had, let's say, a conflict with a colleague or a very difficult patient or difficult referral. You want to log those as part of your cases and provide a bit of reflection at the end. Do remember that the cases that you log, particularly the patients you have managed, should not have any patient identifiers like patient names, and also things like their medical record number, NHS number, or whatever sort of MRN numbers, HC numbers, whatever you want to be calling them at your place. So they should not have any form of identifiers and no names. The only thing you're allowed to have is gender of the patient, date of birth or age, whatever you want to put it as. That's probably it. And then the information on the patient. So a lot of places, of course, are okay with putting patient identifiers, but GMC is very strict on it. So there shouldn't be anything on that. I would say a top tip is exams are not a must, but if you have it, it is a big, big plus, because MRCEM and FRCEM both cover so much of the curriculum that if you're lacking, for example, in one area of your curriculum, the exam covers that. And it makes the, let's say, the review process by RCEM and GMC very, very simple. So, and actually it makes so much more sense, because FRCEM gives you that, even if you're coming from the outside, gives you that sort of insight into the NHS system, how EM is, practiced here. So it gives you a big, big plus. You could have other exams that would support it, but they're not really recognized. It would just be like another certificate. So FRCEM would be highly, highly recommended. And the advantage would probably be, I'm not saying don't go for CCT, but the main advantage is that people coming with families, so you don't have to rotate in between hospitals every 3 to 6 months. So you stay in one place for 3 to 5 years and you get your CESR done, and then you start applying for wherever you want to go as a consultant. That's the biggest advantage. Of course, there are downsides to it, but everything has downsides. So I think I have spoken enough about CESR. Very quickly, one-liner on CCT, which is Certificate of Completion of Training. This basically means a formal training program in emergency medicine in the UK. and eventually it is a 6-year program, and that is how they kind of want your 5 to 6 year experience for the CESR program anyway. So CCT is formal, CESR is going through a non-training post, but informally making it training. I think that's how I'll summarize it. We do have a few more minutes, so if we can take questions, I think, Ashley and Dani, if that's okay.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Shaikh, for that explanation. Really, really appreciate it. So yes, I mean, if you've got any question, if you can put it on the Q&A box, that would be great. So we can just go through each question individually. I can see from Dr. Basma Toba, as requested, does professional postgraduate mental health diploma certificate help me to get a job in the UK? As far as I'm aware, I don't think that's actually a qualification that's recognized by the GMC. If you are a psychiatry doctor, then I probably, my understanding is you would probably need to complete MRC Psych or PLAB to be able to get your GMC registration. Dr. Shaikh, are you able to answer the question, how could I apply for a research fellow?
I think it's, yeah, so research fellow is a completely different process. There are a couple of ways to do it. One, of course, look on the NHS jobs. They might be coming up with clinical fellow jobs. However, the tricky bit would be, are they ready to sponsor you if you're coming from outside? I haven't seen many fellow jobs that do advertise things like that. However, there are clinical jobs with and we have hired them as well recently with special interests. So for example, 20 or 30% of their time would be spent doing and supporting research in the department. But on the NHS website and Health Education England website, which is the HEE website, there are pathways which tell you on how to become an academic research fellow as well, which means a proper qualification. So you can apply for those directly. Hope that answers it.
Thank you. Dr. Sandeep David asks, is there a minimum case requirement for the logbook? Also, are these various form templates available online?
Yeah, there is no minimum case requirement. However, having gone through it myself and supporting others, and basically what GMC and RCEM said, it has to cover the entire curriculum. So basically you have to show from your logbook that in your 5 or 6 years of training from the application, you are seeing the whole breadth of emergency medicine. And if you've done, for example, training in ICU, any of those specialties, your rotations, you are still keeping up by seeing similar cases, being part of it. That's what they need. So a number, I would say something like 150 at least. That would be a good sort of mix over your training period. So you don't put everything in there. 150 would be covering most of the breadth of emergency medicine. And yes, there are templates available online. If you go on to the RCEM CESR page, they do have a logbook template, and it's very easy to use. Yeah, you can go for it. And there's also Kaizen. Kaizen is the new e-portfolio. So if you have access to that, they've got logbook templates as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Another question for you. Downside of CESR.
Okay. So downside of CESR is, I think at the end, it is the same result, but the downside of going through CESR is probably the painful process, which is because you're not on a national training number. Sorry, not on a national training. So where things would happen, I would say automatically, and you're pushed to get your competencies, etc., signed off. A CESR candidate is supported, but you still have to show that initiative yourself. So if I don't think in any place, yes, you'll be supported, but if you don't show any initiative in your job as a middle grade, or even if you're working as a locum consultant, nobody's going to come to you and say, can you have this workplace assessment? So that's probably the biggest one. Yeah, I think that's, the biggest one.
Okay, I've got Dr. Amro Gibril. I believe he's starting with Gloucester in a couple of weeks' time. He's got a question. What about CESR in Gloucester? How fast can I involve?
Wow, okay. Yes, I have seen your name on the list. We are waiting for you. How fast can you involve? So what we're doing in Gloucester currently, 6 of the 8 have arrived, and pretty much they're all started already working clinical. So what we're doing, we're having a 6 weeks induction program, which is a very, very supportive program. So you have a lot of one-to-ones there with whoever is leading CESR, me and another colleague of mine. You have got then different leads that would meet you and provide support and information regarding department and how the NHS system works, as well as you'll be seeing your own patients, discussing it with whoever is the senior decision maker on shift, and then you'll be helped to, basically progress out of those 6 weeks to start working. If that's what your question is, you can, it's basically your, like I said, the support is there, especially in Gloucester and many other places, but you have to show that initiative. So I would say whatever you're doing, just keep getting assessments for it, keep doing the paperwork, because a lot of people actually work clinically very well, but they are not, what should I say, save what they're doing, if that makes sense.
Thank you. I will take these 2 questions. So Dr. Devan Halak and Samira Mahar got a similar question. Is there a possibility of applying for jobs pending MRChem OSCE? I have done 4 years of MD training in emergency medicine and done MRChem primary and intermediate. What's the best option for me if I want to relocate to the UK? Since you only have OSCE pending, I would highly recommend to complete OSCE, which probably will be able to complete within the next 6 months or so, instead of going through the MTI route, which is an alternative route to come and work in the NHS. As you haven't completed MRChem, they would be providing with a much lower graded opportunity. So I would say if you just got your OSCE pending, then just complete that and get your GMC registration through the normal route. Then we've got, is there a specific start time for CESR, or is it as soon as you start working, you start the program? From Dr. Ravi Maharaj.
Is it the same question up there? To give a candidate applying for concerned post compared to someone who has a CESR?
Is there a specific start time for CESR, or is it as soon as you start working, you start the program?
No, so CESR, like I said, is not a formal training program. So it's not like you have to have a start and end date. As soon as you, like the CESR candidates we've had, the day they join, that's the day they start working with induction, etc. Then they take, they're usually given about 6 months sort of time, some places 1 year, depending on how much evidence they've collected. And then we meet again and actually start them onto CESR program. But like I said, even if you have, you might be having evidence of 3 years of emergency medicine, you can bring that in, and it's not like one size fits all. So if you've got loads of experience, you've got an excellent bit of evidence collected already, then your period for actually submitting the application becomes shorter. I hope that answers the question.
Perfect, thank you. I have completed my MD in anesthesiology at my home country in India, 3-year course. Would that work towards my anesthetics requirement?
So MD in anesthetics, and okay. The MD in the UK, like many other qualifications, is not GMC recognized as far as I understand. You can, however, look on the GMC website, foreign approved qualifications.
Yeah.
I don't think it is, but I don't know much about anesthetics.
Okay, from Dr. Rakesh, TP, efficient route for foreign graduate to become an AR specialist. Dani, do you want to answer?
Yeah, of course. So the best possible route would be MRChem, because if you do MRChem, it's a lot easier to get a job. You can do PLAB, which is quicker. The only thing with PLAB is it's proving like harder and harder for us to help doctors that have PLAB get a position. If you do decide to do PLAB, that's fine. We just recommend that you try and do some life support courses like ATLS or something like that. Or even if you have done PLAB, even doing the first part of MRChem, if you're looking to specialize in ED, can really enhance your chances of getting an interview. So yeah, those are obviously the main routes. And then obviously the English test you would need to do alongside that, OET or IELTS.
Dr. Mohammed Akil has asked, can you put some light on MTI program? So MTI stands for Medical Training Initiative. So it's not something that we as a consultancy will be able to help. You'd have to reach out to the Royal College directly. It's actually a 2-year training program for someone who doesn't have MRChem or any of the postgraduate qualification to have some sort of exposure in the UK. You would be coming on a tier 5 visa. Since you haven't got postgraduate qualification, you'll be starting off as equivalent to ST1, ST2, or possibly an ST3, depending on how many years of experience you have. And at the end of the 2 years, you would then have to return back to your home country. But you must have your IELTS or your OET completed, and you would apply with the Royal College. And there are only, I believe from my understanding, there are only 35 positions in each specialty per year in MTI, so it's not a lot of options. So you have to be as open-minded as possible with regards to where you get this opportunity. Cool. Dr. Ravi Maharaj also asked, what's the downside of CESR? What advantage does the CCT give to a candidate applying for a consultant post as compared to someone who has CESR?
In my experience, both the things get you on a specialist register. So it provides no advantage in terms of the application. However, depending if it is a very, very, let's say, hotspot for the consultants to apply and work, it's the big university hospital or something, they might, they might just pick somebody who's got CCT just because they think they've gone through a formal training program. But it is not a criteria at all. Anywhere it is, it might be a preference of a particular hospital. So it provides no advantage.
Perfect. We only have a couple more minutes left, so I'll go through maybe 1 or 2 questions.
Sure.
Does one need PLAB if you're on the MRChem pathway? Dani, you wanna?
Yeah, no, definitely not. If you've started MRChem, definitely just go ahead and complete MRChem. You don't need PLAB, no.
Right, I think we've...
But just on the alternate, if you switch it around, if you have PLAB, as I mentioned before, you can do part MRChem because that will definitely help you in terms of getting an interview.
Dr. Harris asks, is it necessary to have one QI audit every year before applying for CESR, or total one QIP is enough?
Okay, so the GMC clearly states that you have to have one audit cycle every year. One audit every year, and in the 5 years before your submission, you're supposed to have one completed QIP or a completed audit cycle. So you might have the same audit you're doing every year. Does that make sense? So let's say you're seeing abdominal pain in the elderly and you want to follow it every year because you're implementing some changes. And then at the end, you make a final change and see how that works. That will be counted as one whole cycle. So one audit every year could be the same thing, looking at different things, but it has to complete a cycle, or one QIP in 5 years that fulfills all the criteria that GMC have put on their guidance.
Cool. And 2 more questions. Dr. Hari Krishnan asked, if I have been doing a master's by research program for 2 years. I've been away from clinical work. Does this affect my chances of getting an interview for my first job in the NHS? What do you think, Dr. Shaikh?
I don't think it depends really on the hospital. I'm not saying that it completely takes away the chances, but it also, depending on the hospital, if they're looking at somebody who's also interested in research, who they can benefit from that person, then why not? I don't think it negates any chances here.
Perfect. That's all for today. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. I know I've not been able to answer everyone's questions, but I can go through them individually and send you answers individually, because we don't have time to go through every single question. So, but thank you so much for everyone, like for joining everyone, and special mention to Dr. Shaikh for taking up his time to come and explain his experience with Remedium, and also his experience getting a substantive consultant position at Gloucester. So we would like to do this once, maybe a quarter. So keep an eye out for any sort of webinars that's coming out from Remedium. But yeah, thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Best of luck, everybody. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks.